recording. The recording is now on for Design 301 lecture highlights for Wednesday the 16th. And earlier we did demonstrations on how to create orthographic views from a 3D model. And now we're going to kind of go the other way. And I think knowing how to go both ways just helps you visualize, because that's all we're really trying to do is get a good visualization, whether it's flat where we can actually measure what we're working with, but even when we see it flat, we have to really visualize that part. So here we go. Here's a part. This is kind of cool, and I can look at it and you can see that one, and I see a front face, some top view faces, and right view faces. And I'm going to make a copy of this just so I can play around in it. Okay, and if I explode this, and I'm going to turn that off really quick, turn the other one on, and I'm going to move that out of the way. So we're eventually going to get to that point. But I've got this thing, and now you can see these are really are flat surfaces. These are flat surfaces. And if I were to get rid of some of those flat surfaces, you can still see that that's pretty much the shape. And if I were able to draw that, now I have to get into 3D mode. Sorry about that. If I were able to draw that, then I could quickly and easily make my part. And I could say that it's going to go 4, and I've got my part. That's how. So I really only have to draw one view sometimes, and I get my part. So that's a really cool thing. Now, if I want to have it show up where I had it before, I want to keep it where it was. But now I've got it as a solid. It truly is a solid. And when I look at that thing's properties, there's all sorts of stuff I can figure out about it. Okay. And if I do solid prop, let's see, solid, there's another one that gives me more than that. And I have to remember what it is. I hate it when they move stuff around and then I can't figure out what the command was. Well, now darn it all. Somewhere in here it gives me all the stuff about it. Let's see, quick properties, quick. I'm gonna have to go look at it. But there's a way to find out its mass and its center of gravity and all that kind of stuff. And I forget where they are. They're much easier to find in Inventor. But so now I've got that thing. Now, if I want to make that other part, let me just make a copy of this. And I'll just put it somewhere. I can quickly and easily figure out from what I had learned before that I could, well, let's see, hold on a sec. Got to get rid of all of that, and I need to see it as a wireframe now. There we go. I've got it as a wireframe. Okay, then I can actually press pull. Let me get that in the right spot. There we go. Now I can press pull this little part back all the way to there. And you can see, because I've been able to visualize this thing, I can do a little bit of work with it. And then I kind of remembered that there was something over here, 1 inch. Let me see if I can do it like this. There we go. And so now I've got a little bit of thinking to do, how I want to do that. But I could, if I wanted to, know that it goes all the way down to this point, and then I've got something else to draw in there. So let me press pull this down to there. And then if I draw 1 inch over here, I can make another one. Now I'm not going to pull that up yet, because there's another thing called a wedge that I can make. Let's see if this makes my wedge in the right direction. I made it backwards, but I know that I can rotate that one, because that's a command that I know.
Is it backwards because of how you move the mouse? Similar
Yeah,
to
yeah.
things?
The wedge only goes in one direction. And I always forget which direction it goes. It's like it's not as obvious as some of them which direction it goes. Now I think, let's see if I can press pull this one back up. There we go. Now I got that whole shape. So I can, and that just depends on how you want to go about doing it. I could have just made this and done a slice and done a couple of different things, but that's how quick you can make these things, which is kind of nice. And then of course, it's all one piece. So I want to union it. And then this is where it's helpful to be able to know what you're going to select. I selected just the little line pieces that were in there. So that's how quick you can make some of these if you kind of have the idea about surfaces and extension and orthographics. I knew that it was that face across this dimension, and then that this was really just a cut, and this was just a cut with the little wedge in it. There are a couple of other ways I could have done that one. Sometimes some ways are easier than others, but that kind of gives you a clue. What I like about this is now, if I put these on different layers, I have some different layers set up. So I'll put that one on my layer 2, and I'm not showing it. This is something we'll work on next week, layers. I can have things all turned off or all turned on. That one's on my 0 layer. And there we go. Welcome aboard, Joya. And so layers are kind of cool things, but when I come over here, I can look at the different things that I've got there. Okay, so there's one of them all kind of set up. There's another one. Oops, let's see. That one off. And I moved stuff all around so it's not all showing up where it belongs. So I gotta pick those and move them around and put them into place for you. Okay, because now I've got kind of like everything all turned on. So if I've got multiple versions of this, you go, well, what's the use of that layout thing? Let me just show you how that thing works. I'm going to make a new layout, and that's called a viewport, and I get rid of it. And we're going to learn about this more in depth, but I like people to just kind of see how this all works. And I want to make my 3 orthographic views, and it's going to bring in everything. So I want to select just what I want. And so if I remove, enter this one and this one, it's only going to look at that one. And I don't like that scale. That's a really weird scale. There we go. And then it just does it for me. That's what I love about AutoCAD and Inventor and Fusion and SolidWorks. And I think Rhino does that also. So you can really see the front, right, and top views very quickly. So now if I want to make another layout with one of the other ones, I just get rid of that. And I do that same thing, make a base view. And it wants to see everything, so I'll go back to the model and I'll type R to remove this one and this one. Enter. And I don't know, a 1=5 scale is ridiculous. Go 1. Now I've got that one. And you can see these hidden lines don't help me visualize this in any way. So usually we'll edit a particular view and turn those off. So here's another cool thing. If I want to, I can show these with colors. I can hatch what's here right now, and it just shows up in the paper space. And I haven't done this for a while, so let's see if I can get it right. I think that's called an associative hatch. Associative. Nah, it's not. There's a way to go through and actually hatch those. And now I don't remember how to do it, so I'm not going to worry about that. I don't usually, when I'm doing solids, I usually use Inventor because it's got some other features. So that's cool. But I'm gonna show you something here. Why that? Here I'm gonna do an aligned dimension from here to here, and see how it says 3.26. That's because it's called a foreshortened view. Because in reality, that line is 4 long. That's why we can't dimension directly on these views. Now, I can get that to work. I can get it to work, and if I'm in Inventor, it does, it lets me go associative through here. But this is just looking at a line. Okay, so that's why we like to have these views. Because now I know what that dimension is. If I were to put that dimension on here, I'd be making a mistake, essentially. Okay, so that's why this one is a foreshortened view, because it is not orthographic. And things like isometric and oblique and perspective all have this characteristic when they are drawn flat. Now, interestingly, if I put that dimension on here in the real live model, it shows up correctly, because I truly am measuring my model. And that's one of the things I told you earlier. You'd learn a little bit about model space and paper space and layouts. I am truly taking the measurement from there to there on my model when I do it here. The problem is this messes up my model. And if I throw this right into a laser cutter or something, I've got extra work to clean up my model to get rid of that, or my laser cutter or my mill is going to try to do something with that thing. And it just makes mistakes. You can do it, but it makes mistakes. So we tend to get rid of that and show it in the true view. That's the view where it comes out correct, looking straight at. When you look straight at a surface, that's called an orthographic view. So there's another reason for doing this. And we're not going to go a lot into dimensioning right now. And these dimension styles are kind of funny for what we would do. Okay, but you can see that doesn't matter which view I do it in, here or here, it comes out the same. And that's correct. Woohoo! If those were two different numbers, I would have a real serious problem, right? Because I'd know that one of these views was not correct. From the bottom to the top of an adjacent view, you have to see the same number. So there we go. That's just kind of the working backwards from what we did before. Before we took this and kind of counted squares and made them all correct and created these views. And then in this drawing, I used those basic views, and I'll show everything now. I used my basic flat view here to create a full part. So there we go. Do you guys have any questions about that?
Yeah, I'm stuck getting to that point. I have my drawing on the model view.
Okay.
How do I take that and put it into that layer?
Into a layer
Layout.
or the layout?
Layout.
Okay. So here's what you do. I'm going to click a new, so you've got your little model here, right? You've got that thing made. You come down here and you click a new one, or you go to an old one and you get rid of the thing that's already there. Delete. And then when you go into layout, you see this tiny little new tab come up. It's called layout. And when you click on that, you're probably used to going to this one, but you go to this one called, and I'm sorry, you need to be in 3D modeling workspace. Are you still in your drafting?
Yeah, that's probably what the problem is.
So sorry about that. That's probably, let's go back into that and see what happened. So now when I go into layout, no, it still showed up. It still showed up even when I went out of that. So you should be able to click on a layout. This little layout button should show up along the top. And then you should have two sets, layout viewports or create view. And from create view, you're going to do a base view from model space. Click. And then it's going to think a while. I've got too much in there. If you only have one thing in there, you don't have to do this next spot.
So that's where mine's messing up, is mine pulls and wants me to open up a file.
Wants you to open up a file.
Yeah, when I click on base from a model space, it opens up a dialog box and says, select which file do you want.
Is your model in that file?
Yeah. Well, it's in the one that I have open.
Okay, that's really interesting. How about this one up here? Do you have a model space? You have this button up here that says model space when you get into that?
No.
Okay. Are you in AutoCAD Lite?
No.
Okay, then I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to let you share and we'll see what you see.
All right. Remember how to do that on Meet.
There's a right next to the little raised hand, there's
There
a present now, and you
Yep.
can do a window or a tab or a screen.
Let's see. Why is it not opening?
There it goes. It's coming now.
But it's the wrong one. Okay. My entire screen. There we go. All right. I don't know why it's not letting me. There we go. Hit share.
There it goes. Now it's coming on. There we go. Cool.
So maybe it's here that I've messed up.
Oh, that's because that's not a 3D model. That's
Gotcha.
that's just 2D right now. So
Okay.
you'll need to extrude your one that says front view.
Mm-hmm.
You'll need to actually and that's why I don't actually draw those ISO views anymore. I make a model. So you'll want to press pull that, and you'll need to be in. So let me demonstrate how to do that again for you, and you can do that along with me, and then it will make sense.
Okay.
So there we go. And that's why, this is cool being able to go back and forth, but it's so much easier if I could just run over and look at yours. It makes it much, much easier. So I'm going to start one from scratch. I'm going to start a new drawing. And I'm going to make sure that I'm in my 3D drawing mode. And model. And what is all this? Where did all that come? There's my home. And I'm just going to draw that thing. And I'm not even going to use the grid or anything. It's 6 by 2. Have I drawn this before? So there, you've got that thing. And now I'm going to go to this little button. When you get into the 3D modeling, this little button shows up and it's much easier. So there it goes. And then I can do this little press pull. And I just get inside of it, click, and raise it up, and I think it's 4. Now that's cool, but you'll notice that my arrangement isn't quite the same. And that's actually okay. It won't hurt anything, but this really should be the front view. And so I can either rotate it or do something later on. We'll go into that later, but I'm going to show you how to set it up right anyway. So here we go. I'll go into the layout, and I'm going to get rid of that one. And now that I have a solid piece, I'll go to Layout, Base, and there it is from the model. But look, I want my primary view to be top. That's what I want right there. That's going to be my primary view. Okay. Click, click. And then I've got it. So this is all based on having this be a solid piece, what I'm showing you now. And it creates those views. And this is kind of advanced, not really advanced. I don't think you can really separate what we're doing here from the idea of orthographics, because this is really how you do it. Yeah, everybody works with solid models now. So if we were to go back to the one that Stephen had, you couldn't load this piece of paper here into a machine tool and have the mill actually make it. If it's a mill, you could load this view into a plasma cutter that just burns this shape, or you could hook it into, if you wanted to just cut this shape out, you could hook it into a mill or a router. But if you wanted to make this solid thing out of a chunk, you'd have to load this model in. And the way you would load it in usually is by making an export that we would call a DXF. Now, other ones like a stereolithography can be done and things like that. Sorry, I'm going to do a save as, a DXF. And I can pick what's called a DXF, or a digital exchange file. And then most machine tools would actually read that, and they have what's called a compiler that changes that into a series of moves for the mill. And Stephen, that's what do you do CNC mills, or do you mostly just do the plasma cutters? And
actually they're hot wire
cutters. Okay.
Yeah.
So you just do one path, and a 2D drawing would be fine for you, right?
Yeah, we draw them basically from the end view.
Okay. Right.
And then it goes through and cuts these, 8-foot, 10-foot long blocks.
Right. So you would basically look at it like that, and you would cut this long thing, and then you would slice them into whatever thickness you wanted, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you use the hot wire to slice too? Is that what gets used?
Yep. These are big 12-foot square tables and styrofoam blocks.
Yeah, cool. And so that's that. And so for what you're used to doing, you're used to just knowing that it's really that long, and you just have one path. But if this was to be made out of a mill, especially if you had one of the more complicated ones, it would want to know that that was made out of a volume, and gosh, I'm trying to remember the command that would give me those volumes and stuff. Darn it. Let me just see if I can. Mass prop, that's what it's called. Mass properties. So there you can see it would know what the bounding box is, which is like, what's the size of the cube that this is being made from. And then it tells you all sorts of cool stuff. But the compiler would say, oh, that's my bounding box. and then it would find out what has to be removed, and it would set your tool path to go there. So it's a little bit different, but it's not too bad. Not bad how that works. So I know this is really kind of off of what the normal stuff is, but I just think it's good to know what things are and how they're used. Next week, we'll probably be doing this with architectural work and talking about windows and ceiling windows and brick and fascia and gaps and all that kind of stuff that go into the drawings, and talk about those. Okay, did that make sense, Stephen? How that kind of gets used?
Yeah, and that's actually what I'm trying to get them to. The equipment we're on is 30 years old, and I need to modernize it.
Yeah. So, um, but what you're using is probably, um, you'll probably still keep with that, either the hot wire or something like that. Although you could do the same thing with sheets. They have all sorts of sheets that would do the same thing if you knew what thickness you wanted. Um, all sorts of interesting stuff. But yeah, working with solids is sort of the way to go. So there we go. Okay. Any other questions about stuff that we've done, either of these drawings in 2D or 3D or as they show up? Then let me very quickly go back to, if I can find it, where did I put it? We go into my work. I thought I had it in here. Hold on a sec. There it is. This is sort of the lecture from tomorrow. And so if you want, you can kind of skip it. Now that looks a little bit ugly. I wanted to go over some things. So this is sort of the kind of minimum of what we'd be looking at to show that let me come back up here first. And this is not correct. I often use one that's not correct so people don't cut and paste my work. If somebody were to cut and paste this into their portfolio, they would get a very bad grade. First, because it's wrong, and second, because they cut and pasted my work. But you can see, if you just show your work, that sort of does it. And that would be full credit right there. But potentially, because you want this to maybe get you and land you a job later on, you might want to give an indication about how you went about doing that. Say, oh, look at that. I had all that stuff and I took away what I didn't want. And you might even talk about what tool you used. I used the trim tool. So these are all different versions of the presentation that you might use. And you could even show what you started from and what you did there. So there's my copy command where I copied lines. And there's my trim command. And there's my end result. So this would be like, there's a lot. And there's other ways you can do it. You could, as an example, let me make one more duplicate of that. You could also put like arrows on here. Trim away what is not needed. So there's, I mean, it's kind of up to you what you want to do, but that's above and beyond, but it's kind of cool. Depends on what you like to do and how you like to set these. So that's what we'll be going over tomorrow is sort of like, okay, what are some methods that I've got to do? Here's some more. If you want to maybe look at putting some crop options on here to make it look a little bit not doing very good with my selections. So there's all sorts of stuff that you can do. Now, when we come down to the next ones, this is just your most basic. There's the two. But what I want to call attention to is this over here. And I see this a lot. People trying to line these right up on the edge, and it looks crummy. And there's those of you who are do graphics, I think they call this a bleed. And you want to have a little bit of bleed around your stuff. Okay, but you can also, if you want to, put some lines around it. You can center these up. There are some formatting options that you can do. You put like drop shadows on, like some of the other ones. You can do some recoloring if you want, which I wouldn't suggest on these ones. There's transparency that you can do on all of these things if you want. But the drop shadow, it kind of is helpful. I don't believe that drop shadow plots to PDF from Google Slide. I don't think the PDF plotter picks those up, just so you know. So there's your most basic, but again, you might want to do just a little bit more and label your views. And you might do a little bit more because that's a little hard to see. You might do something like that. And you might want to color your views or even show what your views are. So those are the things that we'll kind of discuss and talk about. To tell you the truth, I find this a little too distracting, but some people might want to, just help themselves remember later on what's happening. I'll show you just really quickly because it's cool. A thing that you could do, and this is easier in Inventor, but we can do it. Let me explode this. Maybe it is exploded already. Yep. Isn't that cool? That shows it pretty well. So if you want to, you can really get cool. And then for those of you who like to really show stuff, you can do something like that. Show that those are going that way. And you can do the same thing in the other directions. So those are some kind of neat ways that you can show stuff. And this thing that I'm drawing here is actually called the glass box. And these maybe help you out, or maybe they look like it's more than what you want. Personally, I think that looks pretty cool. If I were to take a snip of that, always getting that in the way. Oops, I got one extra one left in there. I could, if I wanted to, I'll play with that in a minute. There we go. I got a little bit of work to play around with it. Not that far to the back. Well, you guys get the idea when I'm messing up here.
With the 2D labeled, would you really need the arrows?
No, I don't think you need them at all. Tell you the truth. Some people like to have stuff. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious which one's which. Wow, I am just clicking on the wrong stuff right and left. So, probably the ones to get rid of would be these, right? Front, right, top, because they're identified over here and you see them. That gives a pretty nice visual of it. But it's certainly not required It's pretty high end for a introductory class, but it does show cool stuff. There we go. But now, knowing how to do that is a whole nother matter, right? I did a lot of work to do that. But if you're interested, we can go over that in a meet, and I can show you how to do that. Basically, from your solid, you have to do what's called explode. And then each of these becomes a surface. And you can, through the properties, set the color. And then, of course, you can do the move command as you wish. So that's way beyond. That's like that's pretty cool stuff. But some of you have had some drawing and have worked with programs before, and I always I want to keep it fresh for people who may want to do this kind of stuff. This is certainly not required. The point would be that this is full credit right there. That's full credit. It shows this one in 3 views. It shows this one in 3 views. Shows everything is lined up. I can see that and know that you did it right. Okay. Each of these is really just to demonstrate something you might want to demonstrate and to show fluency above and beyond what we're looking for in the class. Same with this up here. This, if it were drawn right, would meet requirements. This is all above and beyond. Cool. So, any questions on all that?
I have a question on plate 1 itself, the one you have on the screen.
Okay.
I did it many different ways, and the way I really like doing it was I created rectangles to dimension and then copy and pasted them. The 3 going down, horizontal. Is there a way then to, when you paste it, rotate something as you're pasting it, so that I could have then gone and quickly put the 3 vertical rectangles?
Yes, there's a copy rotate command. Let me go find that.
I thought there was. I just couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's under copy. So let me come here. And I'll turn all this off just for a moment. It's actually rotate copy. Let me see if it's copy rotate also. So that's sort of the way to do it is a copy rotate. There are in the array command, you can do some stuff with that. But what did you have? Let's go back to this. What did you draw? This thing right here?
No, I did the, what are they, the
square
4.18 rect inch by 1.14 rectangles or whatever they are.
These things? I
essentially made 3 columns.
Oh, got it. You made a
and
column.
then copied the column over.
column.
and then went back and was trying to rotate it to flip it back on and do the horizontal rows as well. Because there's essentially there's 6 different rectangles that are overlaid each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, the way I've seen it, like you've done, you made this thing right here, right? That's the
Uh,
way that's the way I've seen it done where people make the copy of it. They make that thing right there and then they put a couple of them together and then they just attach up the stuff that they want.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I essentially made, what are they, the 1 1/4 inch wide by 4.18 rectangles.
oh, I got it.
I did my offset, and then I copied that over to the other 2 locations.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. There are so many ways to do this one. Personally, I've gotten down to where if I just take 5 minutes, I can just get this. And the way I do it is I actually do these spaces first to sort of set myself. I do those ones because all this in the middle is pretty straightforward. And then I just go down the row. I go get rid of that, get rid of that, rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. That one, that one, that one, that one, that one. So that's sort of that I instead like in my demo I went around the loop, but normally I just go down a row. Kind of like that. Or a column. Lots of cool ways, man. This one's got some stuff. So there are a few other commands that you'll want to maybe sort of think about in the future. There's the mirror command because sometimes it's not just a copy, it's a mirror. And that would probably be pretty useful for you on that one. So there's the mirror command. And then you could also do an array command. Those are probably the two that would be the most. The mirror command is a really good command. That one. And you can mirror about whatever you want. So that's a pretty useful command for you too. And we'll do that in a little while. Okay. Any other? So I didn't really answer your question, but um, that's about the best we got on that one. Any other good question? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and stop the